Welcome to the Yeah But podcast, where we debunk the myths, shatter the alibis, and get real about the hurdles that hold us back. I'm your host, Marc A. Wolfe, president of Marc A. Wolfe Enterprises. I ask questions, provide insights, and help business leaders create innovative opportunities. In each episode, we sit down with inspiring people who have conquered their yeah buts and turned them into stepping stones towards success. Welcome to the show, Gabrielle.
Thank you, Marc.
I don't read bios, so first question I want to ask you is, what is something that you wish people knew about you sooner?
I think in a professional sense, the thing that I wish people knew about me sooner is that I am amazing at strategy. I love to build things. I love to create and implement. And within that, relationships are really my driver in life.
That's great. That's great to know. So how do you go about making sure people know about that quickly?
I would say I'm one of those people that I like to show who I am through my behaviors and my actions. And so I have a little bit of patience for that because I often believe that when someone tells you who they are on the front end for items like I just shared, it's actually means more when they can experience it versus me telling them. And so that's really the approach that I take. And oftentimes that is seen within the first, I would say, 3 months of knowing someone in a professional space.
That's a great answer. Yeah. Show versus more than tell, right?
Yeah.
So we're here to talk about your yeah buts. And before I tell everybody who you are, I want to kind of just level the playing field by talking about your yeah butt. So I asked you to pick 3 yeah buts. Now, let's start with the first one. What was your first yeah butt?
My first yeah, but was I'm too young.
Okay. So how did that become a yeah but for you that was in your head, or did you hear from others?
Well, that yeah, but got created because I accepted a really unique opportunity to become a CEO at 25 years old. And so right off the bat, I was too young within what people would perceive as how old can you be to become a leader. And this was about 10 years ago, so I have aged since then. But that was really a challenge for me because stepping into a place of leadership, but not feeling like there's that appropriate respect because of youth, made me really question myself at the time of, can I do this? Or am I too young, like the world is telling me I am, to actually be a leader?
So when you hear things like that, what goes through your head?
I will say, some of the yeah buts that I'm sharing are historical from my experience, but were really seasons of my life that I feel like I overcame. And so when looking back on this experience, I feel like I've grown a lot since then to really understand that age is not a barrier to leadership. It's really about how you handle the opportunity of leadership. It's less about the actual age of the individual. It's more about the wisdom, the experience, and what they're willing to give to their level of leadership. But I didn't realize that at that time.
And that's why people sometimes say you couldn't possibly be at this level because you haven't had this experience. And some of the things we talk about in the book are perspective and mindset. Mm-hmm. So you could be twice the age of a 25-year-old or 50-year-old and still have the wrong mindset as a leader. You could still do things that a 25-year-old is already crushing because of their experience, their background, things they've been through. So how do you work through a yeah but like that other than just aging into it?
When I was really struggling with experiencing a lot of discrimination via ageism, I really struggled with feelings of imposter syndrome, feeling illegitimate to be able to lead, feeling inadequate. And so that was painful for me. But what I really did is I recognized that the only way to fully honor myself, the work that I've done, and clearly the opportunity that opened its door for me, it was given to me for a reason. But the only way to really honor all of those aspects was to fully step into leadership. And I recognize that in the realm of age, it changes. It's something that is never going to be the same. And my age would come to be the age that people perceived as the appropriate age of leadership. But instead, I decided I'll take the long game on this and I will show that I am worthy of respect, that I can lead, and that I am a good leader. And so it was really a mindset shift and really required me to step into being brave every day in places that I may have been afraid, or with people that I may have felt like did not respect me, but instead to take a tone of, I will show them that they can respect me and they can trust me.
So actually, didn't it work out better for them because they didn't think you could do it, and then you compensated and tried harder? So their fears of you not doing it actually made you even a better leader to crush it more? Is that what I'm hearing? Or
Yes, definitely. And that is the powerful reflection that I can have after 10 years of living in that space. And now I have enough gray hairs to make it okay for everybody else. But at the time, I think that now reflecting on some of the relationships that may have started out with me feeling disrespected, or that they weren't considering me, that I had a right place at the table because of my age, some of those relationships have ended up actually being some of the most supportive colleagues that I have in my life, because they took me seriously in a different way after I was actually able to show them that they can trust me.
so that was really their yeah, but not yours, if I'm hearing it correctly. They were putting it on you. I didn't hear any time where you said you thought you were too young, but you did mention imposter syndrome. So let's clarify the difference between what they said about you and what you said about you.
Although it may seem like the yeah, but was on them, the yeah, but was on me, because it really made me question truly if I was able, if I was in the right place, if I was really the right pick to be a leader. The sleepless nights that I struggled with feelings of imposter syndrome, it was very, very challenging for me. And there were times I thought, clearly, I am not the right person to do this. And so, although my yeah, but has turned into their yeah, but there were many seasons, many days and nights, and what lasted probably, I would say, 3 years of questioning my ability to be a leader because of my age, because of that is what society told me.
So when did that switch?
I would say it switched when I started receiving executive consulting from Marc Wolfe. And when I really was able to step into actually recognizing my value as a leader, that had nothing to do with my age, that had everything to do with the way that I was created and the powerful things that I had experienced, that had built who I was and who I am. And when I really started owning who I was and really stepped into that place where I said, I'm going to honor myself and my journey by fully showing up, that's when it started to change. And that's when my leadership started to change.
Yeah. Thank you for the compliment. Yeah. I always saw you as a leader who was way beyond even what people saw you as. But I saw that you also had a chance to undermine your own success by sometimes believing the noise, right? So I'm going to read a little bit about your bio because I think people getting to know you before they know what you do is so intriguing. And that's why I don't lead with a bio, because I was like, they just got to hear your heart, got to hear what you struggled with. And that's what this podcast's about. It's not about the titles. It's not about what people have accomplished. It's who they are and what they've overcome. So, you know, we've rewritten your bio actually in a way. So this is the first time you're going to get to hear it, because I don't take people's bios either and just read it, because I believe it needs to be. So correct anything that may be a little bit off that we've adjusted. So Gabrielle Thompson's journey has been driven by empowering vulnerable populations and championing justice globally. She has worked as a development practitioner across continents, immersing herself in community challenges. Now the president and CEO of Ideas, an organization removing barriers to dignity. Gabrielle previously led an anti-human trafficking organization and taught at Middle Tennessee State University. Recognized for her impact, she received honors like Nashville Professionals 30 Under 30 and Top 40 Under 40, and MTSU's Alumni Achievement Award. What needs to be added to that, Gabrielle?
I think you all mastered it.
So that's your accolades, that's what you've done, but that's not who you are. And it's not just because you've worked with me coaching. People's bios, I don't believe, really fully encompass who people are or even what they can become. So I know we didn't really practice a lot of that. And a lot of podcasts, people already know what the questions are and what they're going to be. That's not the way I roll. That's not the way I coach. And as you smile, that's so that's why the question about knowing, tell me more about how you know more about yourself and how you've grown through the yeah buts, excuses, or alibis that you've had in your head.
I really believe in surrounding oneself. If you're passionate about growth, if you're passionate about moving past yeah buts, that it's crucial that you have people in your life that can serve as mentors, advisors, call you out, challenge you, stretch you. That is my heart. That's how I want to grow. That's how I have grown. People have invested their time into me to challenge me, to push me, and to really pull out pieces of me that maybe are in the background that should be in the forefront. And that has been really crucial to my development and growth. I would say the other way, just from a personal perspective, that I battle yeah buts is really taking the time to reflect and be present and really recognizing the areas that I want to grow for my own personal development. And I want to see a mirror of who I am. I want to address the things that are barriers and challenges that are preventing me from growing, preventing me from leading in ways that actually honor who I am and what I believe in a much deeper and more powerful way.
That's very profound. And knowing you and the people I work with and coach are people who are driven, right? Want to improve, continue to fall forward, right? When you make a change or a mistake or adjustment. And that's, I guess, the way I look at life, right? Even writing this book, I'm not an author, right? I'm a guy who's heard things from people like you and others. And I'm looking at this going, how can people that are successful have these yeah buts? And when I can see past them, but they can't, or ageism, or sexism, or some other ism that's against someone, but there's people that are your peers that have done it. And then you look at yourself and go, can I do it? So I know that's not your only yeah, but what other yeah buts have really kind of gotten your head before?
Well, I thought I'd bring up a yeah, but that was really fundamental to me in the same season that I was struggling with the ageism. And that yeah, but would be that I'm afraid, I'm scared. And this is a yeah, but that I have often, but I've really learned ways to battle it. But this particular yeah, but that I have about being afraid was very fundamental in the development of who I am and how I lead and how I step into scary things that really are hard for me.
Well, again, to give some context to this, I know some of the places you've gone and done. So are you talking about, I'm just talking about the things that physically scare me, some of the things you've done. You've gone into foreign countries, right, that are intolerant to women having a voice at all.
Mm.
And due to just male dominance, culture, religious persecution. And you've gone in and actually helped people get out of sex trafficking around the world. And I
Yeah.
know that people bigger than you, older than you, different gender than you would still be afraid to do things like this. I don't understand, and I admire you for even being able to do that. And I've told you that from when I first met you, that I was like, what a champion to do something that most people have a right to be afraid of. You could die, right? This, you're doing something. So tell us a little just about that and how you even went in with the mindset to be able to address that. And now you say you're scared. I'm scared for you, and you still did it.
And Marc, the thing that I was referring to actually is the first time that I went into what I would consider the beginning parts of being trained to lead an international anti-trafficking organization. I was 3 months into the role. And to really lead an anti trafficking organization, you need to understand what trafficking looks like. You need to understand the heartbeat of human trafficking and the absolute demise that it is. And so when I was told that part of my training, which was necessary, was that I would need to go to India and experience the brothel district that we served in, which was a 30 block brothel district, as well as the elements of a raid, and live in the safe home, where at the time the youngest person we were serving was 6 years old. And I was not afraid in the ways that are probably traditional and standard, in that I'm afraid for my own safety. I had an eerie sense of safety. I felt I would be safe. What I was actually afraid of is that, how am I worthy enough to experience someone else's suffering in this capacity? I was afraid I would not be able to do justice enough for what I was responsible for doing. I was afraid I wasn't prepared in my own heart and spirit for what I was going to see. And those were the things that I was afraid of.
How do you overcome a fear like that?
When I look back on the things that like I was saying, that I've had so many, yeah, but I'm afraid moments and seasons of my life. And in those times, I really try to just step in and be brave, and decide to choose being brave over hiding in my fear. And within that, I don't want to be brave with a closed heart. I want to be brave with an open heart and be able to step in. Again, it's really important to me that whatever I step into, I'm stepping in fully for who I am as a person and showing up for that. And so, because I didn't know how to prepare, what I did is I had the prayerful hope and anticipation that it was all part of the journey, and it was necessary for me to do that. And sometimes I think preparation is actually just doing. There's no way for us to get prepared for certain things. We just need to step into it and do it. And I think that is what I did in this situation, was step into it. And little did I know at this first time that I would be then, for the next 8 years, working in red light districts, brothels, safe homes, and orphanages all across the world. And so this experience, now reflecting on it, was necessary and crucial for me, that my heart was absolutely broken enough to be able to pick up the pieces and turn my heartbreak into action. And I truly believe that my heartbreak throughout that 8 years and my own grief is exactly what made the organization successful, because I had the unique opportunity to channel my grief into actual action and justice and change.
Hey there, it's time for a quick break. While we're diving into how to live, learn, and lead better, I wanted to let you in on something I'm really excited about. If you've ever found yourself stuck in the yeah but cycle, those moments where excuses get in your way of your potential, my new book, Yeah But, Cut Through the Noise to Live, Learn, and Lead Better, is for you. The book is packed with practical strategies, real stories, and actionable advice to help you stop making excuses and start making progress. Whether you're a leader, a learner, or just someone looking to cut through the noise, Yeah But has something for you. And here's the best part. For a limited time, you can grab a chapter for free. Just head over to my website at www.marcawolfe.com/book to get started. Readers have already said that the perspective and stories guided them to get unstuck and move forward. All right, let's get back to the show and dive into more ways to break through those yeah but moments.
And that's truly who you are. In the time I met you, that it's easy for people to avoid this topic because it's uncomfortable. And I tried to avoid it as well, until my daughter challenged me to be like, Dad, you need to know more about this. And I was like, I'm disgusted this exists. I don't want to be part of it. And getting to meet you and seeing you're a champion and knowing you're more dimensional than just this, even though this is a huge mission, you're relational. And you mentioned that. So thinking back, what are questions that you wish you would have asked yourself during that time, during that yeah buts?
I think even something like bravery can be refined. I think even in the ways we step in and be brave, we can get better at it. And I think at the time I didn't really, now I understand what it means for me to step in and be brave. But at the time I didn't ask myself, what does it mean to be brave and how can I refine it? So that would be one question. I think I learned through the process about how much grief I would have and how painful it would be for me. So I wish that I had prior had that intuition to think, how can I create a care plan? How can I actually make sure I'm being intentional about the way that I'm grieving and what comes out of it? And really asking myself, how am I going to turn this into action? It happened naturally for me, but I wish I would have been more intentional about preparing in advance to ask myself those questions.
And now that you know that, how can you help others get past their yeah buts? Because I'm sure you're not the only one that's ever had a fear about these two things you've already spoken about.
I think when it comes to fear, which all of us experience, it's our human fallacy. There's really only two ways you can deal with fear, at least in my experience. You can allow the fear to rule your life. You can allow the fear to be how you make decisions, how you say yes, how you say no, how you step into a room or a situation. Or you can just say, I have fear, I am afraid, and decide, I'm not going to let this be the way that decisions are made in my life. I'm not going to let this be the way that my actions and behaviors are done. And I'm going to choose to believe that the reason I'm in this situation that I'm afraid of is it's an opportunity for to stretch me, to push me, to challenge me, and to really step into what does bravery look like in this situation. And so that's what I would say is it's really, when you boil that down, I don't believe that people want to make decisions out of fear. I don't think anyone wants to do that. So it's really about the first time you do it and the next time you do it and the next time you do it, it gets easier every time because you can look back and know I was really afraid that one time, but it worked out okay. And here I am. So that would be my recommendation.
And we talk about that in the book about the fear that people already take a lot of things that they say they're afraid of. And I like using the example of you go to a restaurant, you have no idea who the chef is, if he even knows how to cook, if he's even washed his hands at all today, any of this stuff. But we trust this person that we have no idea about. And we're like, well, what else are you going to do? I was like, cook at home, like never go out. Like, oh, I can't do that. I would be missing out on all these great restaurants in Nashville and around the world. But you put trust in people you shouldn't, then we don't trust ourselves that we know what we've done or not done. So it's just so interesting. And it's about perspective to look at what we trust and how we think things are going to be great, or that Uber driver that we even know they know how to drive. I mean, so it's things that we're supposed to be afraid of. We look at and say, oh, well, why wouldn't you be afraid of that? And I look at some things you've done or other people have done, and I'm like, why are you not afraid? And you're like, but I know your faith plays a big role into who you are as well. So this isn't just, I'm strong and I've got this. How does that play a role in who you are and what you do?
My faith is the foundation of everything that I do. And I would say, even in preparing for this podcast, I wasn't sure the approach you would take, but it felt like there was so much missing in my yeah buts without mentioning the role that the Lord had in these moments of my life, these experiences. It truly, I would contribute every yeah but that I've conquered to the foundation of faith that I have.
And I'm, again, knowing you well enough to know that that's not a surprise. Something guides everyone, right? This isn't a spiritual podcast. I'm going to talk to people who have lots of different ways they've overcome their yeah buts. But that's the part. It's about your individual way that you've done it and how you've overcome and how you're still working through. Like fear doesn't get conquered once, right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be great? You're like, I'm never going to fear anything again. Ta-da. But it doesn't work that way. We still hear voices that ourselves telling ourselves that it's not going to be possible, or our close friends saying you're crazy to do that because they project their own limiting beliefs on you. And you're like, you're my best friend. How could you possibly undermine it? Because they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't do it. So I don't know. Did you have a third but that you wanted to discuss?
I did. And this one is more recent. This one is from the past year. And the third but that I have is, what if I fail?
Okay. Tell me more about that.
So I became the CEO of Ideas in 2022. And so I came into an organization that is almost 30 years old. Within that, I did a full analysis of where the organization was. So I looked under every rock I could find: mission, vision, values, financials, programs, personnel, succession, sustainability. And within that process, I found that there were really significant challenges and yet significant opportunities. So in that process, once I had done that very large analysis, I took a bold step of proposing the most severe changes in our almost 30-year history. And I wanted to do a complete revamp of the organization fully from the ground up, basically tearing the house of the org down to the studs. And that was something that I really struggled with. What if I fail? Because there were significant implications for the organization and our personnel across the world, that if I failed at this, what I was proposing, this revamp, then that would significantly influence the lives of so many families. The work that we had done, people that had dedicated 30 years into this organization. And that was very scary for me to fail. And it made me question, am I making the right decision? Am I going in the right direction? Have I really had wisdom about the direction that I chose? Because when I started the process, I had 6 potential opportunities and paths that we could go in. And I also questioned not only if I fail for the organization itself, but I questioned, what if I fail, and how will that shift my own identity of what I think I'm capable of?
So that's pretty big. And how do you even address something like that? Because I know what I do in the book, talk about it, but I want to know, before you read the book, what would you do?
Well, it's more about what I did, because I'm still in the process, but I had to be able to move forward with this. The first thing, and I kind of mentioned it before, is I got mentors, people that, again, I like pushback. I want people to tell me I'm not in the right direction. And that was really helpful. People that walked with me in the process of this. I also kept refining. I'm a very flexible person. And if people mention you should think about this instead, I kept refining. I'm continuing to refine to this day, as we are now in process of the implementation of the new revamp. I also recognize that, there's really only 2 options. I can be afraid of failure and keep things the same, or I can, and thus the organization itself may fail because of the challenges, or I can move forward into knowing that I may fail, but at least I tried. And at least I tried to address something, and it was really hard. And that helped me, because I think that for me, I was really looking at, I take very seriously being a leader. I am very intentional about that. And part of what creates that intentionality is, and this goes back to my faith, I believe that the roles that I have had, that it has been a direct request from God to go and be a leader of particular organizations. And so within that, I take it very seriously. And I wanted to take this extremely seriously, in that it is more, again, an honor is also important to me. It's more honoring, in my opinion, to really try, to really put my all into something than not trying at all because I'm afraid of failure. I also, with the identity piece, tried to really recognize that if I fail in something, it doesn't change my identity or my value as a leader, or the fact that I said yes when the invitation was presented to me to take a leadership role.
Wow. Yeah, that's powerful because it's about a support system. We have a chapter called "Yeah, but I Need Help," right?
Mm.
And that's where we talk about mentors. We talk about a support system. We talk about people challenging each other to grow together or even alone to exceed other people's
Mm.
expectations. So it's interesting because, as we kind of think about, you were told you were too young. You told yourself you were too young at an organization. You said you were afraid because you had a reason to be afraid, being in a foreign country, being in a place. And then you're taking on a new role where you're looking at revamping something in a way where comfort is what we've been always doing, even if
Mm.
it's not the future. And you have to go and do that. Each one of those challenges have a lot of things that could go wrong, right? A lot of things that could affect other people, including yourself. So when you think about your yeah buts and you think about your system about doing this, is there some common theme, right, that you can help others? Because not everybody's Gabrielle Thompson. And I like to remind you of that, right? You're driven, you do a lot of things, but think about something where you could help people who aren't as much or as far along or haven't addressed these as well as you have. What advice do you have for them?
I think, first of all, things are always scarier when they live inside of our heads. If you're afraid of something, if you have a yeah, but, which we all do, please engage with the community in your life that love you, support you, and will be your allies. I think it's crucial for any leader to have mentors and advisors. I think that is a necessary part of leadership, to have accountability. Get what is in your head out into a conversation. I think that's the first thing. I think the second thing I would say is, so often I see this all the time in leadership with my staff, with my colleagues, with peers, with friends, is that they will actually limit themselves based on their own insecurities and fears. And it's only when you can decide, it takes that one step. And again, I really believe that there is a whole life outside of our comfort zones. And it really is, the hardest part is the first step. And if you can take the first step of something that is the yeah, but, it gets easier every time. And sometimes you need someone else to really challenge you in that. But I would say just try the first step and see how you feel.
I couldn't agree more. It's hard to do it alone. You need accountability. You need other people. You need resources. But what I know more than just reading good books is that real time, real person interaction. You could read all the books in the world, including mine. And the point is it won't change anything until you actually have somebody where you can walk with, talk to. Because self-motivation, that's why this isn't really a self-help book. It's about collaboration. It's about understanding your purpose.
Mm.
You're built for a purpose, on purpose, with a purpose. And until you understand that, a lot of things can be noise. A lot of things can be going on. So knowing what you've accomplished and have yet to accomplish, because there's still so much more. What yeah buts do you see in the future that you think you're already starting to address, but you haven't yet completely overcome? Now, I know that came out of left field because I didn't tell you I was going to ask you that. But which ones do you think that you're kind of working on?
I need to see the list again, but I will say every yeah, but on your list in your book, I have definitely experienced. And I would say it's probably the same for a lot of people if they're being honest with themselves. But yeah, I just had to pick three, but I have experienced every yeah, but and do all the time. And I would say one last thing is, as far as what can people do, is recognizing that we can't prepare for everything. Just step into your yeah, but.
That's great. And so as we wrap up, how can people get in touch with you? Because you mentioned a lot of different things. And I know you like community and like to help others. So what's the best way? We'll also put all the links in the show notes as well.
Great. Well, you can definitely find me on LinkedIn, Gabrielle Thompson. You can also go to my website, ideasworld.org, and find me there, or reach out to me via email, which we can provide in the links as well.
Gabrielle, it's been a pleasure. You're an amazing guest and an amazing person who's done some things that other people are just astonished that you have done, and would love to talk to you to find out more. Thanks for being here, and appreciate you as always.
Thank you, Marc. Thank you for the honor and opportunity to be a part of your Yeah But podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Yeah But podcast. If today's episode provided valuable perspective on how to overcome the excuses that can hold you back, let us know in the comments. Remember, it's not about the yeah buts. It's about finding ways to live, learn, and lead better every day. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could use a little kick to get past their own yeah buts. And don't forget to follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And for even more tips, connect with me at marcawolfe.com/podcast. Until next time, keep challenging those excuses and keep moving forward.